Good morning, everybody. It's a joy to be in this place, and especially at this occasion. With my accent, you understand how Dr. Monroe was so international. I was born in East Africa, in Rwanda. I survived the '94 genocide that took more than 1 million in only 3 months. They were saying around, I think, 100,000 people were killed each day. And the government was killing its own people. It was not a foreign country coming in. It was not terrorist people. They were neighbors, people we knew, people we grew up with, people who intermarried, just because of lack of knowledge, just because of a bad leadership, just because of people who didn't understand what leadership was, that a leader was there to protect and serve people. So when I heard him speaking, he was speaking to my DNA. And I knew I had no choice than just to stick with him, and he accepted me. He received me as his own. And I was saying the other day how he connected me and forced me and Charo to stick around. He did it on purpose, and maybe today I will be able to share with you what I learned from him, what I saw him doing. So you pay attention, because English is my fourth language. If you don't pay attention, you will lose me. Okay? I will start with a video a brother made for me when I went to speak to his church. Brother Limay. He took pictures. That is my biological mom.
Miles Monroe, and I bring you greetings in the name of the Lord in the beautiful nation of Uganda. You are very much dear to my heart. I was there.
That video, I will show it at the end. That's when he sent me and Diego for the first time in his life doing one of the session while he was traveling in another country. And I'm going to try this morning to meet my wife and my kids. Papa taught me how I'm still trying to apply what he taught me to be a father and a husband. He said every time he will see me, the first question he will ask, where is your wife? That was the first question every time he would see me, say, where is your wife? I want to talk to your wife. And every time he will tell me to do something, he will first talk to my wife. Make sure what he was asking was aligned within the family. He says, I don't want problems. And it was a privilege to learn from him. Apart from that, I'm a pastor assistant from a French-speaking church in Canada. That's my local church. That's where I serve my gifts. That's my home base, if I can say. And today, I'm going to try to use maybe some words to explain what Miles Jr. yesterday was saying. Papa Miles understood that he understood what legacy was. And today we're going to try to see together what legacy is, what it takes for someone to live beyond his grave. And that's what he said, die empty. Meaning you don't die old, you die when you finish what you had to do. And he understood that life was not a marathon. Life is not something you just run and beat everybody and finish. But life is a relay. You finish your part, your portion, and you handle the baton. And maybe I'm going to try to talk to someone who still have questions. Because people have questions they cannot ask openly. Some people will say, how can you say he was finished and stuff like that, but he still have this massive vision, he didn't accomplish all of this. Some people who didn't come around him will have those questions. And sometimes they are legitimate. Anybody who ever had him speaks, he knew he has so many things he still wanted to fulfill. He will say, I want to die before I die, I want to see a community of people who lives the kingdom. He will say stuff like that. So many people will ask, how can you say he died empty, as the t-shirt we have here? I'm finished, or it's finished. How can you say it? It's because life is not a marathon, but it's a relay. And when God talks to you, when God gives you something to do, he's not talking to a relay man. He's not talking to a marathon man. He's talking to a relay. And we're going to read from Joel chapter 2, verse 28. When the Bible says, and after that, it will come about, says the Lord, that I will send my spirit on all flesh, and your sons and your daughters will be prophets. Your old men will have dreams, your young men will see visions. That is God is speaking, saying, when my spirit is poured upon you, depending on which category you are in, some will get a dream, others will get a vision. By the way, this clicker was on the plane. I don't know if they can zoom in. I found it on the crash site. It's still working. It has the accident thing. But God kept it. So every time I go to speak, I will have one piece of thing that was with my father and my family when they left their shoot. I found it. I went to the crash site and I found it intact. God does everything for a purpose. He wanted for me, every time I would go out, to remember that they had to pay with their life so I can be up speaking. I didn't come here because I was qualified. I came here because my father opened a way for me. And I'm going to try to use what he imparted me to explain why. What do I mean by that? Why is that important for either young people to know how to deal with vision and old folks to know how to deal with dreams? Because I think we have both in the room. So everybody is at the right place at the right time. He said, old men will have dreams and young men will see visions. What is the difference between a dream and a vision? A dream is a vision that you will not fulfill in your lifetime. Old men will have dreams. You don't born old. You become young, then you're going to mature into another one. So the one who are going to have dreams had already a vision. And this is what we have to understand. Papa Miles finished all his visions, but he had a dream. Old man doesn't mean you're old in age. Jesus was old at 33 years. He was old at that time. Old means you are at the end of your stage. You finished your track. Now you're handling the baton. So when God talks to you, speaks to you, gives you a vision, gives you something to do, you have to understand when the vision turned into a dream. And that's what many leaders don't understand. When it's time to transfer the vision. Miles Jr. yesterday was saying mentorship is transferring character, vision. How do you transfer vision? That means you had it, but you know it's not for you. That's the dream we're talking about. Dying empty means it's only when you finish to fulfill your vision and you handed the vision to the next generation. Most of people, they will finish their vision, but they didn't handle the vision, the dream to the next generation. Papa Miles, we call that generational thief. You rob the next generation with your wealth. He didn't do it. He's been mentoring for the last 5 years. Let's see what Habakkuk, the most known verse talking about vision, is Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 2. But I think today we're going to see it in another way. It goes like, write the vision down. Make it plain on tablets, so he may run who reads it. For still the vision awaits its appointed time. It hastens to the end. It will not lie. If it seems slow, wait for it. It will surely come. It will not delay. Get the vision and write it down. Why? So the next runner, so he may run who reads it. Notice the one who is writing it down is not the one who's going to read it. And the one who's going to read it is the one who's going to run with it. God never gives you a vision for you to run with it. He will always give you a vision to write down in such a way so the baton is very well handled. Write the vision down. Why? Not for you. For the one who is going to run with it. He can do it quickly. Some other versions will say, make it plain so the runner can do it quickly. It can be easier. That is the dream we're talking about. That's why Papa Miles had to leave his earthly suit. Because he finished transferring the thing. He mentored not only us, but he mentored his kids. You know, yesterday, Miles Jr. was not referring to a son of Dr. Miles Monroe. He was referring to a mentee. His daughter said at the funerals, she said, the most important decision of her life was to join the mentorship. Wait a minute. We're talking about his physical parents. But what gives them the right is what we're going to see. What qualifies or disqualifies you to get the vision or the baton. We're talking about legacy. We're talking about kingdom legacy. So it's clear for me from God's standing point, you're not supposed to fulfill the vision I give you. And we can go through the Bible and see that it was, God always do that way. We can use like Moses. Moses had a dream, had a vision to take people out from Egypt, take them into the wilderness, but he had a dream to take them into the promised land. That was not a vision because he never done it. What did he do? He wrote down the instructions. He wrote down where they were supposed to be staying. He wrote down everything. At the point God was ready to go to the next stage, he called Joshua and said, Moses is gone. We're talking about kingdom legacy. He said, Moses is gone, but I made sure he's gone. Because Moses tried to fulfill the vision, the dream. He tried to negotiate. Let me do it. Come on, let me go. God said, okay, go and see it, but you are not going to run with it. You will see it so you can transfer it. That is the dream we're talking about. A vision is something you see and you will put your feet in it. A dream is what you see, but your feet don't touch it. You have to write it down. When God came to Joshua, he said, I'm not going to talk to you. Keep what I already told Moses. That's why Habakkuk said, you have to write it in a way. God doesn't have to speak anymore. He said, Joshua, keep in mind and on your mouth what I told Moses. I'm not going to tell you nothing new. If Moses didn't do a good job, Joshua is not going to be able to do it. Because God is not going to repeat himself. That's why Habakkuk said, make it plain on stones. I don't want because stones will stay forever. I don't want you to write it on a piece of paper because when it rains, I will have to speak again. I don't want to do that. I don't have time for that. How are we doing transferring our vision and dreams? Are we aware of what God is telling us is not for us? Are we mentoring people? Are we preparing the next generation? Are we even thinking about kingdom legacy? That's why he wrote the book, Passing It On. I think this is the most important book to get. It's funny because Miles Jr. was teaching from that book. We didn't talk about what we were going to share. He laid the foundation because you know what? We're keeping the legacy of one person. So we have to sync. We have to be aligned, even without have to consult each other. The pastor yesterday was saying they had meetings and meetings and meetings. Papa Miles was transferring the vision. He wrote it down. That's why he will write books. This is one of his vision, his dream. He wrote it down, how you overcome crisis. When I have to run, I don't have to go to look for how do I overcome crisis. I just have to read it. You have a character problem. You don't have. He wrote it down. I don't know if you understand me. You don't have to understand. If you don't understand authority, it's easy. He wrote it down. He made it plain so we can run with it. Today, we're not supposed to go back. No more board meetings, no more planning stuff. I'm reading from the Bible. No more planning. We are at Christian retreat. No more planning retreat. Because the old man generation has to do it. Don't expect them to run it. I hope they don't try to run it. They're too old to run. But they are very good to plan. They are very good in details. So everybody needs everybody. As long as they don't try to run, as long as we don't try to plan. The problem is when the older generation want to hold on it and run with it. When that happens, that means they're not spending enough time planning and writing down. So what is going to happen? They're going to get tired because they're not equipped for that. Nature makes sure you cannot run. But it makes sure you are mature enough and wise enough to plan. Sit down and write. So what happens when the other generation tries to run with it? You cannot run and plan at the same time. Do you know what is going to happen? We're going to lose 2 generations at one time. You don't plan, so you try to run and you get fatigued and you kill yourself. By the time the next generation has to come and take the baton from the casket, you try to run, you messed up everything, and they're going to try to plan because you didn't plan. So themselves are not going to run because they have to plan first. They are not equipped for that. Who knows, the young people, they don't want to sit down, they just want to run. That's building it. As Papa Miles will say, flight is built into the birds. That's why young people, they just give me what to do. Just tell me what to do. That's why they need directions. That's why they need you to tell them what you already planned. So we don't lose both generations potential. When it's very well done, when the next generation is going to take the baton, the next generation is ahead. They have to run like this. Do you know what happens? The last generation has to decide to give the baton. Because you're not looking, you're running. Hey, the next generation just run. When you turn around, you disqualify both of you. I hope I'm talking to leaders from around the world. I hope in your department, you're not making these people to run wondering what is happening. Oh, disqualified. The whole team lose. So in a few minutes, we're going to see sonship, the prerequisite to inherit. What then qualifies you to be the next generation? We're talking about legacy. We're talking about getting the baton. Who is qualified to get the baton from you? The picture we saw at the beginning is some young man who has the same uniform. This is, I think, the Jamaican team. They look alike. You don't hand that baton to anybody. There are some qualifications. If you hand the baton to someone who is not like you, if you hand someone who is not from your team, you're going to lose the battle. So who's qualified? What qualifies anybody to inherit? It's sonship. What do I mean by sonship? Who's a son? Sonship is a decision to submit and to serve someone you recognize as a father figure. Sonship I'm talking about doesn't have nothing to do with natural sons. Miles Jr. made it clear yesterday. 5 years ago, he became a son, the one I'm talking about. And maybe by the end of his show, Papa Miles was setting up everybody to become that son. He said, you cannot mentor someone who doesn't want it. He said that's one of the things he caught lately. So a son, don't look for someone who is biologically linked to you. That doesn't qualify him. Charissa said at the funerals, she said the most important decision she ever made was to come and serve her parents. To submit and to serve. We're going to see what it is. Practically speaking, what is that? How do you submit and serve somebody? How? John 8:35 says, because I said, you submit and serve, right? So sonship will be, in other words, service, serving someone. But the Bible says something. It says, among people who serve, there are two different categories. We're talking about servant. He says, now the servant does not go on living in the house forever, but the son does. So some people will serve you, but will be serving you as servant, not as sons. My brother yesterday said something. He said, serve, serve, serve. It's good. But there are two different categories of people who are serving. I wanted to make that clear because some people will come to serve you with a servant mindset. What is a servant mindset? A servant is someone who's doing something to get paid for it. To get something out of his service. A son serves because he is a son. A son doesn't expect you to pay him. He doesn't expect anything from you. Anybody who is serving you expecting anything will not live forever in your house. He will be kicked out. That's why you cannot rely on that person to hand him the baton because he's not going to stay there. Some people will come to serve you to use your name. They are serving, but they are serving as a servant. They expect to get paid out of what you're doing. God will never allow anybody with that mindset to go to the next level. He will make sure he doesn't stay forever. If he stays, then God failed on this verse. Are you a son? Are you a servant? Are you qualified really to take the baton? Is there anybody in your department qualified to be mentored? Have you checked? Papa will say, never trust an untested person. Did you test for sonship and servanthood? Do you know how to test it? Don't get me wrong, servants are good. But no, they're not going to stay forever. Some people will come and serve you more than sons with a servant mindset. We have sometimes a story of, we call a prodigal son. Am I done? A prodigal son. That story shows me two persons, a son and a servant. Most of people, they get rushed on the first one. He was the only son. The second one was hanging out with servant. You hang out with people of the same mind. He came to his father and said, I worked for you. I slaved for you for all of these years. You never paid me. He was expecting to be paid for his service. The first one knew he was a son and he said, give me. I don't have to serve you. Just give me my part. It's better to go and do it that way than to be a servant in your father's house. Because when you're a son and you made a mistake, at some point, you will come back to your sense and come back to the house. But a servant will stay there as a servant, no matter what. I don't want us to talk about legacy without understanding legacy. Legacy is something very important because, as Papa Miles said, God is a generational God. He thinks in terms of generations. But when we don't understand how it works, the process of going from one generation to another one, then we miss it. Why did I say that sonship is an act of will? Because even God himself, in Romans 8:15, he said it's by the spirit of adoption that we cry, Abba, Father. God being our natural source. The word Abba means source and sustainer. God himself being our source by the act of creation, everything was created out of him, so he's our Father. He doesn't want us to do business on that base. He wants us to do business on an adoption case. Adoption implies free will. I decide to be adopted. You don't cry, Abba, Father. That's why some people say, God created everybody. Yes. But only those who adopt him can call him Abba. So the sonship I'm talking about is even Charo made my day yesterday, because he was explaining he is who he is because he submitted and served his father. Only 5 years ago. We're not going to read it, but if you continue Romans 8, it explains that even those who love God will be the only one who are going to be conformed to the image of his son. He's bringing this thing every time to some conditions. So if you don't love him, if you don't adopt him, you're not going to be his son. Luke 16:12 says, if you have not been faithful to what belongs to another person, who will give you things to have as your own? You cannot inherit from me if you have not been faithful to what belongs to me first. That's why you have to first serve your father. Not as a servant. Because a servant is not being faithful to what belongs to you. He's being faithful to his paycheck. See, it didn't say to be faithful to someone. Faithful to what belongs. We're talking about things. We're not talking about human beings. Many people in our culture, they are faithful to people. They love them. I love him. I saw many people loving Papa, but not loving what belongs to him. I saw many of them. What qualifies a son is to love his father and what belongs to his father. That's why disqualified Jacob, his brother. He didn't give value to the sonship, to the how do you call it? The birthright. He loved his father, but the birthright was that thing that is the legacy, that is going to continue. He didn't take care about that. He just loved his father. You have to be faithful to what belongs to another person. Were you faithful to Papa Miles? Now, if you have been faithful to him, we will never see you again. Because he's gone. Some people will stop coming to the meetings. Some people will just go away because they were not faithful to what belonged to him. They were faithful to him. It's good, but that does not qualify you. Jesus said, Peter, come here. Do you love me? He said, yeah, that's not enough. Take care of my sheep. Loving me is not enough, but it's conditioned. If you don't love me, forget it. But do you love me and love what I love? Do you love me to the point to take care of my sheep? We're talking about being faithful to what belongs to someone else. Many people love Papa, authentic love, but never have a dime. How do you say it? You take a dime? I don't care.
You don't take a dime from him.
Oh, Jesus. You don't. Many people loved him, but never was faithful to what belongs to him. When you are faithful to what belongs to him, sometimes you will accept people to hurt him personally. But if it's good for his will and his vision, you will just lean back. Do you love him? I'm talking about how do you qualify people to to be mentored by you. If you invest in the wrong people, you're going to waste your time. And let me tell you something. Papa Miles could feel you coming. He was very selective. I don't think we're going to read all of that. That was David giving Solomon what to do. He had a dream. He had a dream to build the temple. He had a dream to build the thing. But God told him, hey, don't try to do it. Don't try to do it. Psalms 127 says, sons born during one's youth are like arrows in warrior's hand. What do you do with arrows? Do you keep them? You shoot them in your future. You don't go there. You send them there. You don't go there. You send them there. Sons. Many people are trying to go there. Don't do it. Send your sons there. But the problem, are you mentoring any son? Are you investing in people? Can you live today and your business keeps going? You're used to Papa, right? 5 hours, and after 5 hours, I'm wrapping up. Are we done, Pastor? Are we done? Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I just want to stay under. I learned something from Papa. We went one day in Kinshasa, in Africa. He went, and everybody it was the biggest church in the city. More than 100,000 people in the room. And he went, he sit down to the pastor and said, what do you want me to teach? Whoa. Dr. Miles Monroe asking to this pastor in Africa what he wanted him to teach. The pastor said, hey, you here. Hey. He said, no. What have you been doing? I am here to serve you, not to serve myself. The pastor made a mistake. To tell him, they were talking up there doing some women thing. Papa went for one night. They have him in the church for one night. And he talked to the purpose and fall of women. That's good. But I was like, Papa, 1,000 people, 100,000 people, they're waiting. But he submitted himself. And I landed. He said, I'm not coming here. I'm coming to serve you first. And as Charles said, we learn just by observing him. We learn just by sitting there and see. I was in that room. Because I happened to speak French, and these people speak French. So Papa said, I don't want no translator. I have my own. He said, what do you want me to teach? The pastor was shocked because he was, oh. He understood. In that particular time, he was a son in that house. He understood sonship. That's why he will brag on his fathers. Some people we didn't even know. He will protect. When you don't cover your father's weaknesses, you lose your land. Ask Canaan. Canaan, he lost the land because his forefather, Shem, didn't cover Noah. Are you reading your Bibles? Yes. He said, your son will be cursed. And the first curse, honor your father and your mother so you may live long in the land. When you don't honor, when you don't cover your fathers, the first thing you lose is the land, the legacy, the land. So when Israel had to find a land, God said, oh, someone has to lose his land. And that was Canaan. Many people, and God will put you in a position to see your father's weaknesses. He will make sure you see them to see what you do with it. Our generation doesn't, we think, we know, we have to say it. It's true. Yeah, I saw my pastor doing this and that. I saw my manager doing this and that. I have to report it in the boardroom. Really? You're going to lose your land. That's why David never, Big N, talked about what Saul did to him. You will never find anywhere David talking about those things. Because he understood, this guy is my father, because he was his father-in-law, and he was the one who was fathering him, mentoring him into the kingship. I wish I could have time to talk to sons. God will put you in a position to see your father's weaknesses. When you don't cover them, but you expose them, God will make sure you lose the land. I don't want to lose no land. I will say nothing. So God went, and this is what I believe Papa have been doing for the last 5 years. Papa had a dream in 2009. You're going to understand what happened.
Thank you for listening to Crowning Ignorant Kings, where we are cultivating a kingdom community. Please sign up for our podcast, download, like, and share. Look for us on your social media platforms. If you'd like to reach out to us, please send us an email at crowningignorantkings@gmail.com.